Hello, and welcome to a minisode of My Streaming Bubble. You know, that podcast where I talk about the streamable media that I love with the people I tolerate. Usually. I am your TV watching and talking host, Jen, and it's timey-wimey for another round of Doctor Who Christmas episodes. This time, we're taking the long way round with Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor. Now, I am not as familiar with Peter Capaldi's total run as the Doctor. Definitely more familiar like with his first season with Clara, and then all the way up until like the Danny Pink storyline. And then like I guess I'm more familiar with his run with Clara than I am with Bill Potts. I think I've watched that season only a couple of times. I think mostly because I was mad about how Bill Potts was handled. I didn't, whatever, is what it is. So for this one, it's going to be really easy to talk about at least two of them. One of them is kind of, and then the fourth one is one that I don't know if it gets enough credit. Maybe it's just me because I haven't watched it nearly as often as I've watched the others. Well, the first two, but I like it, but we'll get into that. So we'll just go ahead and get right into these episodes. So first up with Peter Capaldi as the Doctor is Last Christmas. And what IMDb says, the Doctor and Clara face their last Christmas, trapped on an Arctic base under attack from terrifying creatures. Who are you going to call? Santa Claus. Well, that's kind of cute. What I says about it, I says, it's a long story. But honestly, this one might quite possibly be my favorite, or at least the top two. We'll see. We'll see if it's ranking in my personal Doctor Who episode, especially with the 12th Doctor, has changed. But anyway, let's get on with it. Okay, so the 12th Doctor series, the Christmas episodes, stars folks like Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman, Nick Frost, Samuel Anderson, Alex Kingston, Greg Davies, Matt Lucas, David Bradley, Pearl Mackie, Mark Gatiss, and many, 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 many more. These episodes were written by Stephen Moffat and were directed by people like Paul Wilmshurst, Douglas McKinnon, I should have looked this up before I hit record, Ed Bazalgette, Bazalgette, and Rachel Talalay. Is that Talallay? Talalay. If that is how it's pronounced, that is a lot of fun. If that is not how it's pronounced, I'm very sorry. All right, so first up is Last Christmas. And this one is my favorite because, definitely top two favorite, because Nick Frost as Santa has got to be like my favorite TV Santa. He was just a little too perfect for this. He's kind of sassy and kind of mouthy. Him and his elves try to gaslight Clara into thinking that they weren't who they were. He talks back to the Doctor and very sassy, very dreamy-wimmy as he says to him. But this one's just, I really like this one because it's a lot of fun. This crew of Arctic scientists, they're just kind of a hoot. We have the one actress that was in the Game of Thrones. She knew Arya. We'll just say that and not get into any spoilers or anything. But Faye Marsay as Shona is just a fucking hoot and a delight. I love the opening with this little Arctic crew, and she's got the headphones on and she's listening to her playlist because they don't want to like disturb these alien dream face hugger things. Because when you think about them, that's when they activate. And so, of course, she's listening to Slade's Merry Xmas, everyone. Of course, she's got a kick-ass dance routine to it. And you can just tell, like, this is not the first time she's done this dance. And it's just a hoot. It's a lot of fun. But like I said, she's just a fucking hoot. She talks back to Santa. She threatens to mark him, like claw his face if he gives up too much information about her past Christmas list. It's a delight. And then we've got the whole dream within a dream, within a dream, within a dream, and multiple dreams and shared dreams. And that, I don't know, I'm a little bit of a sucker for that. So that's a lot of fun because you just never really know. Are they awake now? Were they awake before? How many more awakes do they need to waken? And then not only that, but then we have, like, within all of these dreams within a dreams and dreams, because of these face hugger alien dream giver brain stealer things. I don't remember what they're called. I don't care. But we get a little bit of a dream sequence with Clara. She's still clearly dealing with the grief and the loss of Danny Pink. And so she dreams this beautiful Christmas morning with Danny dressed as Santa. There's, the blackboard comes up and it's the doctor trying to reach Clara to let her know that she's dreaming, she's dying, it's not real. But she doesn't give a fuck. I think deep down she really knows that, but she just does not fucking care because she's got Danny and she's got a lot of guilt, I think, associated with his death. Totally understandable because she really wasn't the best girlfriend for Danny. She, like a lot of the doctor's companions, kind of struggled with that balance of being with the doctor, going on adventures, but also trying to maintain a quote normal life in the real world. With the Ponds, it was a little easier since it was both Rory and Amy, but obviously Rose struggled with that. Was it really a struggle? Did she actually give a fuck about Mickey? No, she didn't. It was not a struggle for her. With Donna, there was no partner for her to think about. She just got to go do otherwise she's stuck at home with her mom. And her mom's kind of like, ugh, but Wilf is amazing. Martha did not really struggle with any of that because she was too busy having googly eyes for the doctor to, for a while, care about her real life. She still cared, with becoming a doctor and all of that, a physician, but she didn't have a relationship that she had to balance. And now we're to Clara and her guilt with Danny Pink. So when the doctor doesn't take the companion and the companion's partner, then we kind of see this struggle with the companion trying to balance life and like real life and life on the TARDIS with the doctor. So with all of that said, that was, like I said, we're taking the long way around, folks. Because Clara has all this guilt, this was what she dreams. And of course, then the doctor infiltrates the dream basically and is able to rescue her. And what I really loved about this little sequence here was that she made Danny Pink so real that he became almost sentient and was talking shit to the doctor and just perfectly. And the way that he more or less gives her permission to go and tells her, 5 minutes, you're allowed 5 minutes a day to mourn me, and you got to do it properly. Cries, ugly cries, snot face, kind of that whole thing, but then to fucking get on with it. And I just really liked this moment because even though it isn't truly Danny Pink, it's still Clara's subconscious or whatever. This was just kind of a nice moment where she gives herself permission to move on. And the fact that it's coming from the face of Danny Pink just is that much more kind of beneficial for her and that much more like healing for her, where there's going to be less guilt. And I think that is, I love that so much because when it came to losing Danny Pink, I was not fucking prepared for any of that shit. So I also love the line that when the doctor says something about, trying to wake up Clara and let her know that, Danny Pink is dead and he died saving the world. And in true Danny Pink fashion, he's like, I didn't save the world. I didn't save you guys. I saved Clara and the rest of y'all got lucky. And I fucking love that for some reason. I think maybe just because it shows how much Danny actually did love and care for Clara. It again shows that Clara can still dreamy weemy up Danny perfectly with just how he like sasses back to the doctor. And it's nice. It's kind of a nice send off since Clara didn't really get to say goodbye to Danny. So I'm glad that she had that moment. In this episode, like there's just a lot of really funny lines. Between the elves being like, oh, you can't call us elves, that's racist, or you can't call them human, that's racist. And the other one says it's not racist, they don't mind. Shona referring to the doctor as a skeleton man. Again, just the sass off between Doctor and Santa. Talking shit about how the doctor is dressed as a magician. Slay is bigger on the inside, a horror movie called Alien, but that's really offensive and no wonder Earth keeps getting invaded, and etc., etc. And then, of course, we have towards the end when we think everyone has been saved, the doctor has saved the, quote, scientists, and we see their real world life, and none of them are scientists. Again, Shona's just kind of like chilling in her apartment. She wakes up. She's got a list of things, and one of them is Thrones Marathon, and it's just, oh, that's so cheeky. The older woman, we find out, she's a grandma, and she's a wheelchair user. And then the other one, she sells perfume, and she wakes up in kind of like this, not like super fancy, but like this nice big bed. It looks like it's got nice, like silky, satiny, sexy sheets. Appears to be single. Nothing wrong with that. And then like the guy dies, and that's fine. He kind of admitted to being a bit of a creeper and then got called out for it. And that's just delightful. So, but once everyone is saved and the doctor wakes up and he goes to catch up with Clara and make sure that she's okay. And he shows up and she's old. And the first time I watched this, I was like, oh no, the doctor really fucked up. So, and that was just kind of such a sweet little moment. You can tell the doctor feels guilty. Obviously, he can't tell. And I love that he can't tell the difference between young Clara and old Clara, truly. But he comes back out with the paper Christmas hats and the Christmas cracker popper things. And it's so sweet because in the time of the doctor, when 11 is old and Clara shows up and she's got one of the Christmas cracker things and they pull it to get the little poem, the doctor's old and she kind of has to help him with that. And here we see the reverse where Clara is old and she can't pull the popper thingy and the doctor has to help her. And that's just, it's so kind of like bittersweet that it goes a bit full circle like that. I love it. And it's so heartbreaking, especially the first time you watch it and you're thinking like, oh my God, this is it. This is how we lose Clara. Holy fuck. Not in a Christmas episode. No. Shit. But then of course we find out it's a dream. He's still dreamy with me. And I'm sorry, but I love how Nick Frost says that to him. He's like, it's also dreamy with me. I don't know. It's a fucking hoot. And they also call Santa Beardy Weirdy. I can't remember. I think that might have been shown, or the doctor. It doesn't matter. But I just kind of love this continuation of timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, humany-woomany, beardy weirdy, dreamy weemy. I'm sure there are more examples kind of throughout the series that I am not remembering, and that's fine. But I just love that kind of ongoing joke. And then like in the Day of the Doctor, when the war doctor's there and he's like, timey-wimey, like what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Haha, I love it. I don't know. It's so silly. But then they are really wishing that, the doctor's really wishing he had gotten there on time to save her properly and this and that. And then bam, in walks Santa. And he's like, how badly do you wish it? And then they all wake up, everything's fine. And Clara rejoins the doctor on the adventures. And then one of my favorite things about this episode is that last shot through Clara's bedroom window, and then we see them enter the TARDIS and the TARDIS take off. But then when it pans down to the windowsill and we see like the little tangerine that Santa gives out, it just, I love how it just in this moment, it makes Santa real. And, throughout the episode, it's questioning whether or not Santa's real. And I love that at one point, they're both kind of looked at as fairy tales, both Santa and the doctor. Like, how can they both be real? And it's just, I don't know. It like I said, it's a fucking hoot. It cracks me up, makes me giggle, and it's just a delight. But I love how Santa is used in this episode as kind of like the one main constant for everyone to kind of hold on to and try and help jog their memory, their brain, their conscience into like, this isn't real. But then at the end, Santa is real. But it's so sweet that they use Santa as kind of that grounding figure to connect them all and to also kind of help them realize like, oh shit, this cannot be real. But it's a delight. It's also so sad because I just, the line, every Christmas is last Christmas. And it's so true. And if you have ever lost a friend or family member and that year of first is the fucking worst, that first set of holidays is just so fucking heartbreaking. And then, we're humans. We're going to sit and make ourselves sad sometimes. And we look at the pictures and we just can't help but think every Christmas is last Christmas. And for some of us, it truly was. So I love that because it's so devastating. I'm such a shit. All right, so that's just kind of the real quick overview. I don't want to get too recappy with these. I feel like I did that a little too much in the last episode, and I'm not the best at doing like a good recap. So I apologize for that. Thank you guys for dealing with that shit. All right, and speaking of delightful heartbreaks, on to The Husbands of River Song. So what IMDb says about this one: when a crashed spaceship calls upon the doctor for help, he finds himself recruited into River Song's squad and hurled into a chase across the galaxy. What I says, I've never cried so fucking hard at Hello, Sweetie in my entire life. What the fuck? So, I mean, if everyone loved River Song and we all loved the story and like her storyline and that plot and everything from David Tennant to Matt Smith, how do you not love this episode? We get her story comes almost like full circle, right? Because when she first meets when 10 first meets her, I should say, and he doesn't recognize her and everything, and she knows that her time is coming to an end and this and that. And she tells him that, the last time she saw him, he showed up with a new haircut and his best suit. And they spent the night on Beryllium with the singing towers and everything. And Ten's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then in this episode, that's where they more or less end up by the end. So, but the doctor, he's on a planet. He's kind of just like being sulky. And we meet Nardal in this episode. And I really like Nardal. He's just kind of sweet. He seems to be a bit of a punching bag for the doctor. And it's not to excuse it or to make it okay or anything, but the doctor sometimes kind of needs that. Like 11 had handles he could kind of use as like a punching bag. And in this one with 12 and Nardal, it's not constant, but I think there's still just enough digs in there where you're just like, dude, be a little nicer to Nardal, or don't, whatever, it's fine. But Nardal is looking for a physician because he's been sent by River Song, and he finds the TARDIS and the Doctor. And the Doctor is, I love the little sign on the TARDIS that says carolers will be criticized. I don't know. It's that's so mean. That's so much meaner than just like shooing them away or anything like that. Because you know 12 will not be nice about it. But I also love that, clearly 12 is still quite sad. And he's got the TARDIS there trying to cheer him up with the antler headband, which feels very like wolf coated. So maybe the TARDIS was trying to bring in a little wolfy magic or something, trying to remind him like, look, Wolf wears these and you love Wolf. So you should wear them and be happy. But then we hear the Doctor just being like, you are a time machine. You're not supposed to be trying to cheer me up or whatever. And it's just a fucking hoot. But Nardal gets 12 back to River Song. And that's when we like, oh my God, it's River Song. And she does not recognize 12 because she doesn't know that 11 got a new set of regenerations. She's like, I'm looking for the damsel, as she says later, and has all the photos of all his faces. And someone's like, oh, well, couldn't he have like a different face? And she's like, there are limits to what he can do. So it's just kind of fun to see how River behaves and acts when like the Doctor's not around, from marrying tyrants just to get a diamond to like stealing the TARDIS just whenever. And 12 is so shocked. He's like, what? Hiding booze in one of the round things. And just, I don't know. It's just so fun. It's so River Song. It's so River of her. And I love it so much. And the Doctor keeps trying to drop little hints as to who he is. And she just is not picking up on it. So I think I'm not entirely sure why it took her as long as it did to realize he was the Doctor. She just had blinders on. She didn't want to see it. She didn't want to admit it. Or she really just, I'm not entirely sure why it took so long to click. But when it did, holy shit. Her whole speech about, you don't expect the stars to love you back or for a sunset to admire you as well. Or, whatever that big long speech was, that is just so fucking like heart-wrenching because yes, she admits she's always loved the Doctor. She's never been quiet about that. But she goes on to say, when have I ever said that the Doctor loved me back? And with 12 standing there and hearing all of that, and I think really, really realizing maybe how important he is to her, I don't think that was ever a question for him. But when you hear someone talk about you the way she does in front of you without them realizing that you're there and they speak so wonderfully, it's it's delightfully shocking. And it can be it's just that reinforcing, not reinforcing, but it's when you're able to hear someone's true feelings about you. When they think you're not in the room and they say such wonderful things, it kind of hits a little different. And you're just like, oh shit. So that's how they really feel. No qualms about it. No additional like digs or anything like that. But then also for him to see like the hurt that she carries with that. Being in love with someone that doesn't necessarily love you back, at least in the same way that you love them. And it just all kind of like, I don't know, it just all comes together in this like beautiful heartbreak soup. I'm not entirely sure what I'm trying to say here. I'm recording this still pretty early in the morning. It's not even 9:00 yet. No one's knocking at my door. Thank fuck. So I apologize that I'm even worse with words now than I typically am, but I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say here. But When she says all of that and she turns around and she looks at him and she kind of slowly starts to realize, and then he drops the quiet, hello, sweetie. And then she realizes, and then she clicks right back into river mode. And now she knows that they are going to be safe. Like she's had a plan all along because she's an archaeologist from the future and she dug them up. But there's that confidence that comes back to her. And I think River always has that confidence. But here, I think it really shines through. Because the second she realizes that's the doctor, and they kind of start almost a little bit bickering. You know, he kind of teases her a little bit. She's like, shut up. And then the one fish face dude or whatever is just like trying to get them to stop bickering. Like, hey, there's more important shit going on right now. Like we've got you kind of dead to rights. And the way she's just like, hush, mommy and daddy are talking. She knows, like, with that quick little line, River's back and she's got that confidence and she's got her doctor and she still has her plan. Hopefully the doctor doesn't fuck with it too much. And and he doesn't. But to get these two reunited in 12's form and the way they kind of try and catch each other up quick, you know, she's like, well, what happened? He's like, a thing happened. She's like, of course it did. And that's just acceptable. And he's like, what do you think of the new face, the new body? Or he's like, what do you think of the new body? And she's like, I've only seen the face. And it's like, oh, down girl. She's so happy to have her doctor back. And it's just absolutely fucking adorable. So the spaceship is crashing and they're both trying to stop it from crashing, and they don't, but they are able to save themselves by hopping into the TARDIS real quick, but not before they bicker about who they both have married over the years. My favorite line was when she's like, was it her or him? Either way, someone's like, well, Cleopatra. And the other one's like, well, same question. So these two, I swear, these two and their bullshit, I love it so much. But they crash. And they crash right on Beryllium, right in front of the singing towers. And then we find out that really, like, so this is how the restaurant came to be. And he uses like the diamond that River had married that was in Greg Davies' robot head. Sorry, Halifax or whatever. But he uses the diamond and gives it to a nice young man that was trying to find survivors. And the doctor's like, you're not going to want to like save. No one here is really worth saving. But here's a big fucking diamond. It's worth a shitload, and you should build a restaurant right here. And I love how he just kind of hops into his TARDIS, stops back at the spot throughout time to make make sure it gets built, to make the reservation, and to come back. And this whole time, River is still unconscious in the TARDIS, which is delightful. It also tells me, like, this really didn't take all that long, but, time travel, wibbly wobbly. And so she gets to the restaurant. Oh, and I love her little, like, spritzy freshen up thing and gives her a whole new outfit. Like, come on, scientists, let's get on that. How can we make freshening up easier for us? Please and thank you. And beautiful view of the towers. And this whole fucking scene is just one beautiful, tearful moment after another. And this is when the doctor gives her own sonic screwdriver because she had a sonic trowel. And he's like, that's just embarrassing. And we know that this is the sonic screwdriver that is used to basically save her when she dies, saving the library. Because, the doctor's had all that time to figure out how to do it. So he did it. It brings it all so full circle. And I just think this is a lovely way to truly tie up River's storyline. So they're talking about, the tales about us. Some say this and that this is our last night. And River's just waiting for him to drop the truth bomb that he's actually has a plan to get out of it, to save the day. He's like, no, some things can't be avoided. And is very kind of still coy about everything. So finally, River asks, well, how long is a night on Beryllium? And he says 24 years. And that little gasp that she lets out is one of the most beautiful, romantic, lovely gasps to ever have gasped. Because I think we all felt that kind of like release and relief when the doctor's like, it's 24 years. You're like, oh my God, they get their lifetime. Oh my God, they get it. They get to be happy. Maybe that's just me. But it was such a relief that it wasn't just one night. And I guess, like, you never really thought to ask ourselves, that question. How long is a night on Beryllium? Is it just Earth hours of like 8, 12, whatever you consider, from the start of nighttime to like the start of daytime, whatever. And then, yeah, because it's an alien planet. Why would time pass just like time passes on Earth? It doesn't have to. And it doesn't. And one night is 24. That is a long fucking night. Holy shit. Can you imagine? Wow. Anyway, I just blinked out for a second and just thought about all the bullshit chores I'd have to get done in that fucking night. Ugh. All right. And so they get their happily ever after. And River's line about it isn't about something along the lines of like, it isn't about living happily ever after. It just means time, more time. And that's exactly what they get. And that's it. And I love it. I love that we end River's storyline with 12. And I just love that she gets her happily ever after. And as she had said, it's just time. And she gets her time. And which is so fucking sweet and lovely, because especially since earlier she was going through her diary and she's like, my diary's almost full. The man who gave this to me knows exactly how much of a diary to give to a person and all of that kind of stuff. So she has this feeling that, yes, her time is coming to an end. She doesn't know what that looks like yet. Only the doctor knows that. But then for her to get that time that she was talking about, and it's not just a little bit of time, it's 24 years. Oh my God. But I love it so much. Her little gasp, again, just gives me the goosies every single fucking time. But that's kind of going to be the quick and dirty version of the Husbands of River song. She's married not only to Halifax, but to, what was his name? Like, not Ricardo, but the other gentleman. Very handsome too, by the way. Let's see. And then just a couple of quick notes about this. I guess a few little stray bubbles, since I want to continue on to the other two. Keep this closer to under an hour, which would be fantastic. Let's see. Oh, the doctor's comment about needing a flow chart to follow their relationship is so true. I love that. That just seems to be a little kind of wink to the fans who have made flow charts to try and follow their timeline. I have one saved because it gets very confusing. I tried to watch the Doctor Who episodes, but in order of River's timeline. And since there are a couple that you actually repeat because she's a baby, but then also like River, it got a little confusing. I was like, wait, where am I in this? What the fuck am I doing? Very, very wibbly wobbly. But it was a lot of fun. Did kind of keep forgetting that was why I was rewatching some of those episodes. Anyway. I just love how jealous he is when he sees that she's married to Halifax and this and that, and he keeps crossing his arms. It's so fucking adorable. He's just so cranky and jealous about it. Perfect. And when River steals the TARDIS and she warns this physician, this surgeon, that it's not quite as snug as it might appear. And 12 gets all sorts of fucking excited. I mean, he's not like jumping up and down in this moment, but he's just like, finally, it's my go. And he goes in and does this very exaggerated kind of like, oh my God, and like freaking out about like how it's so much bigger on the inside. And then he gets a little technical with shit. And he was just like, I just always wanted to see that done properly. So just the idea that no one has ever reacted to the inside of the TARDIS to his standards is amazing. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for the Husbands of River Song for now. I'm sure I've missed a bunch of shit. I'm sure there's still probably like 1,000 more things that I could talk about. Didn't even really get into the baddies of this episode with like the weird zipper faces and head pulley parties and whatnot. That's so fucking gross. Ugh, very unsanitary. Ugh. All right, and up next is the third one. The Return of Dr. Mysterio. What IMDb says about this one: one fateful night in New York City, the Doctor inadvertently causes a young boy to gain superpowers. Returning years later on the trail of the shady Harmony Shoal Institute, he finds the boy all grown up as masked superhero, the Ghost. What I says about this one, I says, I usually skip this one. This one is not my favorite. I do not care for this one. It's just not a great one. This one always just kind of felt like a cash grab to me because of the whole like superhero aspect. And this episode came out in 2016. And in 2016, it looks like we were kind of just entering phase 3 of the Infinity Saga within the MCU. And with the MCU starting in 2008 and really kind of kicking off the whole comic book movie franchises and whatnot, that's just what this felt like. It was just like a kind of a Johnny come lately, want to get in on some of that comic book superhero action. And that's always been the biggest issue. It just felt ugh. It just felt kind of like icky because of that. Just like that's just all they were trying to do in my mind. So I don't usually watch this one. I usually skip it because it just bothers me so much. And it actually has like one of the most annoying lines ever. I can't it pisses me off so much, and I'll get to that. Now, when rewatching this one for pod prep, I was like, all right, I got to go in with an open mind. I can't go in to watching this with my poo-poo glasses on because I'm not going to be able to properly critique this one. I know a lot of people do like this one, and I don't mean to like yuck your yum, like what you like, and I'm glad that you like it. Somebody has to because it ain't going to be me. But this one just kind of falls short for me. But if you like it, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. I'm glad that you can see and appreciate the good parts of this. And there are good parts to this, I will say. After watching this for pod prep and trying to keep a more open mind about it, I can understand why people do really like this episode. It's a great episode for Capaldi's Doctor. He's got some great kind of witty little comebacks like he usually does. And I think for the most part, like the story itself is fine. It's very Doctor Who-y wooey. But again, it's just the timing of it that just felt corny and like just opportunistic. There we go. But trying to put all of that out of my mind while I watch this, the story itself is fine. I don't generally have a problem with the fact that this is kind of a superhero type episode where the kid swallows the gem and becomes a superhero. And that's fine. Truly, it is. I really don't have a problem with that. But again, it's the timing of it. And I think a lot of it too, when I was rewatching it, is just kind of how like basic it is. Like when the Doctor asks Grant about what kind of powers he has, or no, maybe it wasn't Grant. Maybe it was like Lucy or whoever was the Lois Lane of the episode, basically. It's just all these like very common superhero-y tropes. And, he even Grant's like, basic flight, basic super strength, basic X-ray vision, basic. And that's pretty much what the whole kind of superhero aspect to this episode is. It's basic. He's, obviously doing the double life thing. Glasses, no glasses. At least his superhero costume involves a mask, and not one that just covers his eyeballs, and at least one where he can fully move his neck. So we got that going. But then even down to his like superhero voice, he's got that gruff Christian Bale Batman voice. Jesus. It's just corny. And I know there's a lot of Doctor Who episodes, moments, and whatnot that definitely fall within the range of corny, but for whatever reason, this one bothers me. But like I said, the story itself isn't terrible. And it's very Doctor Who-y. And that's great. But I still just cannot stand it. The villains, the baddies in this one, we get like the whatever they're fucking called, the Harmony Shoal Institute or whatever, with like these zipper faces that goes like, diagonal across their face. And then they separate like their skull. And it's like a purse or something. They keep shit in there, I guess. Is that like a metaphor for like people with empty heads? They just kind of, instead of using their brain, they just kind of store bullshit in there. I don't know. That was a reach. I'm sorry. But they really don't seem to be that big of a threat. I don't know. They just seemed very easily bested by the Doctor. And, he calls unit and they come in and take the last remaining baddie away and whatnot. And it's fine. It seemed to be like easily dealt with and resolved and not really too much of a challenge. For the Doctor, it was more about how can he, quote, like save Grant, or as Grant was growing up, like trying to keep him from using his powers, whatever. It was more about kind of that than it was about the baddies of the moment. But so he defeats them. Grant comes clean as to who he is to the Lois Lane. It is kind of funny, the one line where the Doctor asks Grant after he realizes he's the ghost, like, how complicated do you need to make your life? And Grant's like, not as complicated as is about to get. And then the Lois Lane character walks in because Grant's her nanny. I do appreciate that he is a male nanny. And I do appreciate that they are very defensive and protective over the fact that he is a male nanny. So that's cool. I'm down with that. Let's see. He flies around with the baby monitor so he can keep tabs on the baby that he leaves home alone, which the Doctor does call him out on. And I love that. Good on you, Doctor. But he, when he's like doing the interviews or he's just kind of on the street and the baby monitor goes off and he's like, oh, duty calls. First of all, duty. But second of all, like, it's just a bit like no one's noticed that this is just a fucking baby monitor and that's a baby crying and that like, that's kind of weird. Whatever. I don't give a shit because, Superman, Clark Kent, glasses, no glasses, little hair curl in the front, no hair curl in the front, what have you. It's fine. But it just, you couldn't have like crafted like a cooler gadget for that so it looked less baby monitory. It's fine. Whatever. But at the end of the episode, he is, everyone's, the truth is out, and Grant's very much like, I think I'm going to hang up my superhero ways or whatever. Doctor's very much like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. I'm back. The whole, like, Grant's been in love with, is her name Lucy? Why do I keep wanting to say Lucy? I don't know if that's what it is. Let me double check. Oh, thank goodness it is Lucy. So the truth is out and everything. We also find out that Grant has been in love with Lucy for 24 years. The Doctor's like, of course it has to be 24 years. But the Doctor is back now. He's back from his night on Beryllium with River Song. And I love that Lucy kind of clocks it right away that it wasn't where has he been, but what was her name. She's a very good investigative journalist in that sense. So she's smart. I like it. She is, and you know what? And nothing against these characters. I think these characters are all great kind of on their own. Lucy's smart, capable, fearless. Grant is, again, basic superhero, mild-mannered nanny by day / and night, but also vigilante superhero by day / night. And that's great. I'm so happy for them. But so the line that I fucking hate, and again, I think it's just how basic it is. Everything about this episode is basic, like the premise and whatnot, but the line where the doctor says something like, everything ends, and that's sad. But everything begins again, and that's happy. And he's like, be happy, whatever. That is just, there's no nuance. It's just so fucking boring of a line. It's nothing like any of the other lines that we've heard in any of the other Christmas episodes. Like, yes, I have my favorite. I'm sure other people have their favorite. I'm sure people love this line because I can understand appreciating it in its simplicity and its truth. No fancy metaphors or analogies or anything like that. Don't need to look too deeply into it. It's the facts. Things end and that sucks. But then things begin again and that doesn't have to suck. I get it. But fuck. God, that is after Matt Smith's the Dr. Widow in the Wardrobe, his line to Madge about, why are we upset when we see them happy, knowing that they're going to be sad again? Well, it's because they're going to be sad again. And then the best advice ever is you're going to be nervous and shaky and rubbish, so make it part of the plan and then it'll feel on purpose. And now we're just like, yep, shit sucks. Get over it. It fucking bugs me so much. I will say that I do get a kick out of Lucy and her weird, squeaky face toy. I can't remember what she called it, but she's kind of sadistic. She's like, it feels pain. So when you don't tell me the truth, I'm going to inflict pain onto it. Hello, red flag much? What the fuck? But I love that she gives it to him at the end, and he keeps it on his console as likely a reminder to be truthful to himself. I'm guessing. Sure, why not? That sounds basic enough. That's it for the return of Dr. Mysterio. I guess I don't dislike it as much as I did prior to this rewatch. There are some really great doctor moments, some really great doctor lines and everything. But again, I think for me, it was just the timing of it just felt icky. She's like, oh, you want to get in on some of the superhero action? The doctor's already a superhero. He's a fairy tale. He's a superhero. He's all these things. We don't need a superhero specific episode, especially in kind of the middle of the height of the MCU, I suppose. The Infinity Saga and whatnot and whatever. All right. And the last one for Peter Capaldi's 12th Doctor is Twice Upon a Time. What IMDb says about this one: the 12th Doctor, still refusing to change, goes on a last adventure with the First Doctor. What I says about this one, I says this one's actually, I need to make sure I put this more into the rotation, definitely above the Return of Dr. Mysterio, because I do really like this episode. I like how it ties in Classic Who with New Who. David Bradley as the First Doctor, I thought, did a really great job. I'm not familiar with Classic Who, but at least look-wise, I thought he pretty much fucking nailed it. I like that we see these two different versions of the Doctor still being stubborn as ever when it comes to regenerating. And I like that, it's got to take place in, what was it, the North Pole, South Pole? North Pole, South Pole. Either way, they're at one of the poles. It's snowy, so we get that kind of Christmas vibe to it and everything. And the Doctor thinks he's up against some big bad, but it turns out this, I can't even remember what they're called anymore. Hold on. The testimony thinks that there's something kind of nefarious about this group, this being or whatever. And it turns out they're just kind of like a database to collect people's memories and to store them, preserve them. It's an archive, pretty much. And I like that in this episode, too, we get the return of Rusty, the Dalek that is not a good Dalek, that has turned on the Daleks because of the Doctor, who is actually a very good Dalek. And I really kind of liked that within 12's run, kind of that little arc about, him being a good doctor, or a good person, a good Dalek, and the fact that they can actually get a Dalek to turn against its own is pretty fucking amazing. But this one, it's after Bill Potts has died and, she became a Cyberman. And if I remember correctly, she became a Cyberman that was more closely, like look-wise, was more like a classic Cyberman. Again, from what I can recall, and then from the little bits that we get in the beginning of this where they show clips of Classic Who and those old, the OG Cybermen. They look so silly. So I kind of like this testimony group. It's a little creepy, right? Because they can take the form of anybody and everybody whose memories they have, make a glass person out of them and put their memory and their conscious into that. And then they argue that they are the real Bill Potts or what have you. Because what is a person if it's not memories, a collection of memories, which, yeah, fair point. They're not big bads. They're just, like I said, they're just a data center. They're just an archive to hold all that kind of information. I will say one of the things that kind of bugged me about the 12th Doctor in this one was how much he resisted the testimony version of Bill Potts. And he's like, you're not her, you're not real, this and that. And I can understand that he's still grieving her loss. At this point, Clara's long gone, not just from the show, but also from the Doctor's memories, which is heartbreaking. How that all happens, too, is just a fucking ugly cry face, snot face situation. That's, oh God, it just kills me. It's like the reverse Donna, and it's just as bad. So I can understand how he is resistant to the testimony version of Bill Potts. But it is also a wee disappointing, especially after 11's run in with the almost people, the milk people. Sorry, that was weird. But how he pretty much fought for these almost people's, their rights. Same with Rory in that episode. The only one that was truly resistant and seemed kind of prejudiced was Amy Pond. But that was a whole other thing, and we won't get into that here. But it was just, it was a little dude, don't you remember how you were no, these almost people are actual people, the memories, and the one almost person guy that was a dad, and he takes up the mantle of being the kid's dad after the original got melted or whatever. And because, again, it's the memories. So it was a little disappointing here with the Doctor being so resistant. But again, I get it. It's the grieving. It's him not wanting to open himself up to the possibility that this is Bill Potts, or even accepting that this is a near perfect copy of Bill Potts, because I just don't think that he's in that position to lose her again. Plus, he's mid-regeneration, and the Doctor can get very stubborn about all of that as well, and yada yada. But he eventually accepts it for what it is. We get Mark Gatiss as some random soldier that we actually find out is the, I suppose, grandfather of Kate Lethbridge Stewart, head of unit. So I really liked how that got tied into it, and how this random soldier ended up being a not so random soldier. And that pretty much the Doctor was always meant to save this fella. And he does so just by skipping ahead a few hours during the World War I. And I love how the soldier was like, World War One? And the doctor's like, oh, spoilers. I don't know. It's just so silly. But the doctor drops him back off in the middle of the war, in the same spot they were in, just not in the same time. And it was that moment where both sides, there was a ceasefire, they celebrated Christmas, and for one day it was like this human-made miracle of like Christmas magic, right? Because like, how does that happen? How do you just stop mid-war and decide, you know what, let's just celebrate Christmas? Now, what they portrayed in the episode, I have no idea if they were like playing soccer and like drinking tea or coffee together or whatnot. But I like to think that there was at least some level of them kind of coming together as human beings, because I think that is just lovely. Because when the episode opens and Mark Gatiss is random soldier guy pointing the gun at the other random soldier guy, both of them looking absolutely terrified, and Mark's character is just like, I don't want to kill you. I wish you spoke English. I wish you could understand what I'm saying, because I don't think you want this either. Absolutely. And I just love this kind of very humany womany moment within this episode, and truly like within history, because why can't we do that more often? I don't know. But the real kicker for this episode, the real kick in the knackers, punch to the gut, all of that shit is, testimony Bill Potts is still pleading the case of, who are we if we aren't memories? How important, and trying to express how important our memories are by bringing back Clara. And then all of a sudden, and he remembers and he's happy. And I love this for him. I love it so fucking much. Just like Donna remembering who the doctor was and all of that. It's so lovely. What a nice Christmas present. So the doctor, both versions of the doctor, the first one and the 12th one, both have kind of made peace with where they're at and have accepted their fate of regeneration. And so first doctor goes off into his TARDIS and regenerates. And he's like, here's to the long way round. And then 12 goes into his TARDIS after saying goodbye to testimony version of Bill Potts and Nardal. And Nardal being like, no, I'm all glass and not just my nipples. Like, what the fuck is up with this dude? Invisible hair. It's fine. But he goes in. So 12 goes into his TARDIS and allows the kind of regeneration to go through its regenerationing. And his little kind of goodbye speech, I felt was, I really like it. He goes through and he like leaves himself pieces of advice, don't eat pears. Always try to be nice. And what else does he say? So the 12th Doctor's speech is, I love it. I love how he is embracing the regeneration, more or less trying to leave like a Post-it note of don't forgets for himself. Things like never be cruel, never be cowardly, and never eat pears. That's what it was. Remember, hate is always foolish, but love is always wise. Now, while I do agree with that in a very broad sense, I would argue that love is not always wise and that love can make us do some really stupid fucking things. But I get what he's trying to say here. And then always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. And I love that he is differentiating, making that difference, stating that there's that difference between being nice and being kind. And that, yeah, you want to try to be nice, but sometimes it's not what the situation calls for, but that doesn't mean there can't still be kindness involved. So I really like that. And then he kind of goes on about, don't Don't tell anyone your name. No one would understand it except for children. Children will hear it and they will understand it if their hearts are in the right place, and the stars are too. Children can hear your name, but nobody else. And I really love that kind of playing into, how children are more open and receptive to more otherworldly things. Because, as we grow up and we become more jaded and have other things to focus on, we kind of lose some of that whimsy and that wonder. And so I love that the Doctor is in of itself whimsy and wonder, and that, of course, the children can hear the name. But they're children, so no one would fucking believe them anyways. They're just like, oh, you and your invisible friend. Just get out of here. And then, of course, ending with his line, Doctor, I let you go. I love this speech. I love this regeneration. It's brilliant. It's like there's a dramatic aspect to it because, of course. There's a sad, heartbreaking aspect to it because, of course. But I love this level of acceptance that we see from the Doctor here. We saw it with 11 regenerating from 11 to 12. He was definitely more accepting of it than 10 was. And here, even though 12 kind of went through his usual stubbornness, he accepted it. He came to peace with it. And he relished his time as the Doctor, but now he understands it's time to go. And he willingly gives up the Doctor in that sense. So it's fucking great. And I think this episode, IMDb has it rated at like an 8 point something. Some of the user reviews gave it like a 10, which abso-fucking-lutely. I think this episode definitely needs to get as much credit, if not more, than some of these other Christmas episodes. And maybe not just of 12's Christmas episodes, but of all of them. Again, the way they tie in classic Who with this, we've got the regeneration and the Doctor kind of going through his own bullshit and working his way through his own bullshit in his own Doctor way, but then actually accepting his own bullshit and being able to peacefully move on. And it's just fucking lovely. And it definitely deserves a lot of love, a lot of credit, a lot of accolades. I think this one is way better than The Return of Dr. Mysterio. A lot of them are. Almost like all of them are. But I think this one, I just really need to remember to keep this one higher on the order of rewatch when I rewatch these. Because like I said, I usually start with 11, sometimes 12. Sometimes I start with Last Christmas. It just kind of depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If I want something a little sadder. But this one definitely deserves to be bumped up with where Last Christmas, Husbands of River Song, A Christmas Carol, Christmas Carol. It deserves to be higher on my list, personally. So I don't know where you guys have this on your list. Hopefully it's higher up than where it was for me originally. And I hope that you appreciate this episode as much as I do. And if not, that's fine. I'm not here to try and convince anybody which episodes are the best, which ones to watch, which ones to skip, etc., because I'm just not here to do that. Like what you like in the order that you want to like it. That's awesome. Have fun with it. Love it. And never eat pears. All right, so that's going to do it for me today. I've gone just a wee bit over time. Big fucking surprise. I don't really have any stray bubbles, nothing really from IMDb at this time, but that's quite all right because I think I've rambled enough. And I'm sure there's people out there that know way more fun facts and trivia about these episodes than I do. And that's fantastic. And feel free to share them with me because I love fun facts. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for today. Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you are enjoying these Doctor Who Christmas special recaps. We're now halfway through, a little over halfway through, because I have 13 and then 15 to do. So we're the next couple episodes are going to be a little bit of like unfamiliar territory, only because I'm not as familiar with Jodie Whittaker's full run as the Doctor. Last time I rewatched her series, I realized I have seen like the first season quite a few times, but it's kind of that second and then the rest of it that I'm not super familiar with. So with all these other Christmas episodes, I have a pretty good idea of where they land within the show, like the overall series run, kind of what happened before, what's going to happen next type thing. With Jodie's Doctor, I don't know any of that shit. So I will definitely probably need help kind of filling in some of those blanks. But until we get to that point, just make sure that you are following this podcast on all the socials: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, and YouTube. Just search My Streaming Bubble and I'll pop on up there for you. And then make sure you do all of that for the monthly podcast that I co-host with Aaron from It's a Fandom Thing called Twin It to Win It. And that's where we guess, or we test our twinningness by guessing how the other person feels about different horror movies. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as well. And most importantly, you can rate, review, and share, listen, all of that stuff from most podcast players. So until next time, my lovely bubbly wubblies, I let you go. Goodbye. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to let me know by rating and reviewing on a podcast player near you, and by sharing your favorite episodes with your friends, family, and mail carrier. Then be sure to follow me on all your favorite socials like Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Just search My Streaming Bubble and I should pop on up there for ya. If you have suggestions on what I should stream in my bubble next, or you want to be tolerated, send an email to mystreamingbubble@gmail.com. Looking for merch? Stop by my Redbubble store where you can find and buy My Streaming Bubble stickers, hats, shirts, and more. You can also head over to buymeacoffee.com and, well, buy me a coffee. Need more podcast me in your life? Then be sure to check out my other podcast, Twin It to Win It. That's a monthly podcast that I co-host with my podcast brain twin, Aaron from It's a Fandom Thing, where we test our twinningness by trying to guess if we both feel the same way about different horror movies. You can find and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. And most importantly, you can listen, rate, review, and share from most podcast players. Thank you for your support and keep streaming. Goodbye.